Thought I was doing myself some good, a daily pill like I was told I should. Then the numbness crept into my feet, couldn't keep my balance on the street. Is it MS? My symptoms are the same. The doctor said you have B6 toxicity, and your vitamins are to blame.
In Australia, products containing 10 milligrams or more of vitamin B6 are required to carry a nerve damage warning. This podcast is for awareness only and does not replace medical advice. Please consult your GP or healthcare professional for personalized care. Vitamin B6 is not checked in standard blood tests.
Hi, I'm Melissa Page. This is the B6 Toxicity and Me Diagnosis Stories podcast. I'd like to welcome our guest today, Laurie. Where are you from?
I'm from South Padre Island, Texas.
Wow.
In the USA.
So, can you tell me a bit about yourself? Like, you've done a lot of really interesting things in your life.
You know, I feel like I have done a lot of really interesting things in my life. I have a doctorate in education. I taught for 30 years. I have traveled extensively, 28 different countries, have yet to be to Australia. That's my next, I think, is where I'm trying to go. I am very athletic. Or used to be very athletic and very daring. Jumped off the world's highest bridge on a bungee, went off a mountain in Switzerland. I've worked out most of my life. I've always been super active, young and active grandma, and that changed for me. I still wonder how I let it happen. I get upset that it did, but for the most part, I'm an intelligent person who finds myself here.
You were drinking Monster for a long time.
Yes.
So tell me about your history with Monster.
Well, it's really interesting because I lived in England for a year and I got to where I was drinking tea, but it took a long time. I don't drink coffee. I've never liked it at all. It took a long time for me to even, drink tea. But I needed it to, a little caffeine, a little boost, and I kind of like tea. But it takes a long time to make tea when you're in a hurry. And so I started drinking Monster drinks. I decided that was quick. It was easy. It tasted good. I'm not a soda drinker. I drink mostly water. It seemed easy. It had vitamins in it. Ironically, one of my students, I do these things called iSearch papers, and one of my students did an iSearch paper about energy drinks, and she warned me off of it years ago. I was probably drinking it for 2-3 years, and she warned me off of it. You shouldn't drink it. It's bad for you. Look at my research. I even read her research paper, and I was like, it's vitamins. It'll be okay. I'm only drinking one, in the morning or whatever. And I basically slammed one every morning before I went to work, and or as I was driving to work, and that's what happened. And I was warned off of it too, but I knew better. I didn't care.
So you started developing symptoms back before COVID?
I actually was diagnosed with fibromyalgia way back in 2010 because I'd had cervical fusion. In 2004, I'd had anterior lumbar fusion. After my cervical fusion, I was experiencing a great deal of pain in my feet, my back, my upper body. And so that's that. Being diagnosed with fibromyalgia, they just start putting you on medication. Brain fog.
Yeah.
But they first thought it was fibromyalgia. That was what I was diagnosed with. It's basically you're in pain and we don't know why, so we're just going to call it fibromyalgia. And it's possible that it was in part because of the spine tumor and the brain tumor, both meningiomas, both not cancerous, that I was experiencing this, because shortly after that, after these surgeries, as I started to heal, I wasn't experiencing as much of the upper body pain.
So you had a brain tumor, a spine tumor. You've also had a neck surgery
Yeah,
as
cervical
well.
and a low. I had anterior lumbar fusion, so low back surgery, L5S1. 3, 4, and 5 fused in my neck, and then the brain tumor removed from here, and the spine tumor removed from my thoracic spine.
And still, after all that, you had neuropathy symptoms, and you were still drinking your Monster.
No, I'd stopped drinking. My friend showed me a video of somebody had soaked, I don't know, something in Monster, and it basically kind of like Coca-Cola cleaned it or messed it up or ruined it or whatever. And so I actually stopped drinking Monster drinks in February of 2020. And I didn't drink Monster drinks until 2021 again, but I only went back to, I didn't drink a whole Monster drink. I was just drinking a third of a Monster drink. But at the same time, I started taking a B complex that had 5,822% of the daily value of vitamin B6 in it. And I didn't read the label. I bought the brand and the same exact brand that my sister was taking, and the nutritionist recommended. And so I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And I started taking it, and probably, I don't know, a year into taking it, my boyfriend basically said to me, he goes, why are you taking all these vitamins? You eat well, you go out into the sun, you exercise, why are you taking all these vitamins? You're paying all this money for these vitamins, and all they're doing is coloring your pee yellow. You don't need them. And he warned me off of them and said that it wasn't good for me to be taking them. That was his opinion. And I ignored him. I completely ignored him. And I continued taking it and continued with my day glow colored urine. And then this happened.
So how were your symptoms before you got diagnosed, and who diagnosed you?
Okay, so I went to Belize with my sister, and we rode a golf cart. And when I got back from that trip, I was having a lot of pain and neuropathy in my lower extremities. And I thought that I had just gotten jarred by the golf cart rides, because I don't know if you've ever been to Belize, but they don't have real roads, and you just hit pots, and there's no suspension or what. But from that time on, it just progressively got worse, and it was burning in my crotch area, my buttocks, my calves, down into my feet particularly bad, burning, especially at night. I described it to my friends as standing in a fire ant bed, being bitten by all the ants, and the ant bed being on fire. That's how it felt. And the flames would come up, and they'd, higher, and they'd go lower, and they'd go higher. And then my doctor put me on gabapentin, and just psychologically, gabapentin, Lyrica, any of the stuff that I had taken before for the fibromyalgia, that messed with me. It messed with my head. I was convinced every time I put one of those into my mouth that I was doing harm to myself. And so the thing that was supposed to be helping me was psychologically messing with my head at the time. And so that in and of itself presented a problem. So I took only the minimal dose. I continued to use meditation because I got this great little app called Headspace that I happened across, and I use it. And so I was using that, and I have a routine. If I could find something mindless or something that would catch my attention, like a TV show, I would watch it end on end, because I could start watching it, and then my mind was with that TV show, as opposed to the fact that my feet and everything is burning. And so I have this routine. I still have it. So at 10 o'clock, I can turn off the TV, And then I'm tired enough to where, even though it's just like laying in fire, I can fall asleep. And then when I wake up, I feel better. Not perfect, but better. But at night, it gets particularly bad.
So how did your GP come to test bees? Because they're not often checked.
No, they aren't. She tried the gabapentin. It was not getting better. It was getting worse. And I was taking, again, my boyfriend had said, take what she tells you to take. Take the doses she tells you to take. So I'm like, I don't want to take it. I don't want to take it. And he's just, do it and see if it helps. And it did a little bit, but then it really didn't. So once, I guess, I'd been taking gabapentin, I could either up the dose, but it was not. It was just getting worse. And I walked into her office, and it's a 6-hour drive from here. So I was up there, and I made an appointment with her, and I went into her office. And you know how you're in the lobby, and then you go into the waiting room, and you're sitting in the waiting room, and you're waiting for the doctor to come in. And at that point, I mean, everything was just on fire. And she came into, and I had struggled driving, just getting from one place to the other. And she came in like she always does, and she says, "Hey, how you doing?" And I just burst into tears, and I said, "I would rather be dead." And I've never said anything like that out loud, and especially not to her, but I never said anything like that out loud. But that's how I felt at the moment, that it was hopeless, that I would rather be dead. And so she was taken aback. She stepped back, she grabbed her computer, started taking notes. She goes, "Explain to me exactly what you're feeling, where you're feeling it, when you're feeling it, and what it feels like." And so I did. I started body scanning, and I was telling her, this is how it feels. This is what happens. The foot goes almost completely numb. Inside shoes, it feels worse. If I'm wearing shoes, you can add more ants and more fire. And so I started explaining, and you could almost see her, like she was taking the notes, and then she paused for a second, and it was almost, it was almost like, in my mind anyway, a cartoon character, with the little light bulb coming up on top, because she goes, "I need you to go take a blood test in the morning," because this was afternoon. And she goes, "I need you to take a blood test in the morning, and don't make excuses, go do the blood test." And so that's all she told me. And she said, "We can keep throwing the gabapentin at you, but let's do this blood test first. Let's figure out what's going on." She didn't say anything about B6, like I said. Well, I was traveling back to South Texas. So left her office, did the blood work, drove home. And barely made it home because it was so bad. My foot was numb, and it was horrible. I actually had to take my shoes off and put flip-flops on, and air conditioning cold on my foot and everything, just to make it home. And then that was on a Saturday. On Monday morning, her office called me, and they were explaining to me, like the nurse was explaining to me, but she walked by at the time, and she goes, "Is that Laurie? Let me talk to her." And so she got on the phone, and she said, "This is what's happening with you. Your level is so high that it's off the chart. Like they can't even measure it. You're above the highest mark."
So this is your B6 level?
Yes, for B6. She says it's so high. And I'm still thinking, first of all, how did I get there? Second of all, but it's water soluble. But between Thursday, when I did the blood test, Friday, when she got the blood test, I guess, that afternoon, or maybe it was Monday morning, I don't know. But when she got it, she had done research. She said, "I've never seen anybody with a level this high." She said that, and I said, "Well, can I just pee it out?" That's basic. And she said, "No." She goes, "What's happened to you is your body sponged it into your cells and your muscles and all that kind of stuff." And she says, "And, you can get it out of your blood pretty quickly, but it's going to take weeks or months to get it out of the rest of your body." And then the other thing that this put me in tears as well, is that, so you can pee this much out, you got to get it out of your body, your system, and then your nerves start to heal. She had done enough research over the weekend about it or whatever, that she was explaining to me that it's not linear, and that it's a roller coaster, and that because of my my other issues, that there might be some problems with it. She didn't give me all the information that I later discovered, the muscle fatigue, and that was another thing I forgot to tell you, Melissa. I was describing to her the thing that I noticed at first, because I love to work out, like I'm a gym rat. And what I noticed, and I kept saying this to her, and she'd given me creatine, and I'd asked her to check my hormones and everything, was muscle fatigue. So getting off of a chair, you just get up, right? But I felt like I was lifting up two of me. Going up the stairs, I had to hang on because I felt like I was taking, my feet weighed double or triple or quadruple going up the stairs. I was lifting, doing 30-pound curls and 40-pound curls and going up. So I started at 10 and 20 when I went back to working out after I healed from the brain surgery and the spine surgery. I was doing 150 leg presses, those kind of things. But then suddenly I wasn't. Like suddenly the 30-pound that had become easy to me, and I was moving up to the 40, became more difficult, and I was just doing 20 pounds. And that was the thing that I noticed the most. The neuropathy, I still mentally kind of kept blaming on the brain tumor and the spine tumor. But when she said it was the B6 and that was why it was all in this lower half and why it was happening the way it was happening, then it was these sort of aha moments where you can kind of look back and say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, this was a warning. Okay. And I don't blame her for not figuring it out faster. But when I look back, I was asking questions, but it wasn't the right question. I didn't know, she didn't know. I thought that maybe my hormones, my friends were telling me that they were taking hormones and that was giving them the energy, and it was doing that, and my friend's a nurse practitioner, and she said, oh yeah, I got the beads in my hip, and and it's giving me so much more energy, and then my doctor suggested the creatine because that helps you with muscles. And so we tried things before she had the light bulb about the B6. So we had tried other things, but it makes me mad personally and like frustrated, because why couldn't the light bulb have come on early? You know what I mean? Why did I have to wait almost a year after these symptoms became so problematic to discover what was going on with me?
And you've probably been toxic on and off for years as well.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you want to warn people about B6 toxicity?
Well, a couple of things. Don't ignore your body. So many of the vitamins that they put in complexes and in one-a-days and multivitamins and things, we get naturally. We get enough B6, for example, in chicken, turkey, almonds. There's things that I already ate. So don't take vitamins or multivitamins unless you're deficient. And if that means you go and you take a blood test that says my D vitamins are low, or my B6 is low, or my B12 is low, or my calcium or whatever it is low, or your diet is just terrible and you only eat cheese, or you only eat bread or whatever, you're getting vitamins in your food. And if you have a poor diet, then that's different. But then you still should have a blood test and say, okay, maybe my brain fog, maybe I'm feeling run down because of maybe my loss of energy, or maybe I'm not getting weaker naturally, I'm getting weaker unnaturally. So listen to your body. We drive our cars every day, and we know when there's a vibration, or we know if it's not starting just the way it's supposed to, or and we should do more than that with our own body. If we're feeling something, we can't keep throwing band-aids on it. We need to find out the source. And I've learned the hard way that doctors, they don't know everything. And even though a neurologist, it doesn't mean that that particular neurologist or any neurologist really know to look for vitamin B6. They're looking for other causes. And so you have to be your own advocate. You have to question. You have to not stop digging, stop looking. I mean, I'd gotten to the point where it took me wanting to just end it all to make my doctor's ears perk up, but she had been looking with me, like she had been trying all this way. But once we had tried these other things, and I gotten to this point, then she had her aha moment. But I'm also a member of neuropathy groups on Facebook, and there are people that don't know why they have neuropathy. And after I discovered this, whenever I see somebody, I have this happening and this going, check your B6, and I'm immediately advocating to, what do you have to lose? You go get it done, your B6 normal, great. But if you find out that it's not, and you're basically taking the hide off, or the covering protection off of your nerves, I mean, why not? Why not? It's preventative and it's proactive. I think it's important.
So have you felt any difference now stopping the B6 in the supplements? How's your recovery looking today?
Well, I'm only 7 months out, and I say only 7 months because, when you think you can pee it out, you're like, oh yay, I'll just pee it out and I'll be better tomorrow, kind of a thing. But it's not the case. And so once things are better, subtle differences that you maybe don't even notice. It's still bad for me at night, but and I get flares during the day. But then there's times when there's no neuropathy. I mean, it's almost gone. The muscle fatigue seems to be the hardest to kind of recover from, and the brain fatigue or the brain fog, finding vocabulary words. I'm a language arts teacher. I'm a linguist. I'm a writer. Vocabulary is my jam, and to not be able to think of nutritionist 5 minutes ago, it floors me. But that's getting better. I'm getting my memory back. Short term still dodgy, but I've noticed that I do, like, I didn't forget you, for example. I am continuing my walks in the morning. I walk 2 to 2.5 miles every single morning. I go to the gym about 5 days a week. I do a much lighter but more reps in terms of weight training, and I listen to my body. I don't push so hard that I'm going to suffer about it the next day. Or if I do push hard, because I take Pilates classes and I'm trying to not overdo in those. So everybody's doing their thing, and sometimes I just lay on the mat, and I'm trying to not push myself too hard, because I'm the type of person that wants to know what I can do to win, what I can do to complete, that's my mentality. So having to self-check, but feeling better because of it.
Have you rechecked your B6 levels?
Yes, they were back to normal. Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's my blood, so I'm assuming that it's coming out of my body as well, because like I said, there are good days. There are good days. Better days. Perfect, not even close. And I do some journaling. So I write down, today was pretty good. Wow, my crotch didn't burn like it was on fire today, or it's only in my feet, or last night when I fell asleep, my hand wasn't tingling and the side of my face wasn't tingling. That's pretty nice. So little things like that show up, and just being able to do more in my exercises and stuff. But I could easily knock out 10 push-ups before, 15, and I'm now almost 67 years old, but just a few years ago, I was improving in my weight and doing my exercises and stuff. I did a 250-pound leg press, back a year or so ago, and being able to do some more, like being able to work out a little bit is showing improvement for me.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to people that may be B6 skeptic?
If it's a doctor that's B6 skeptic, I think that I would not have that doctor anymore. But if it's a person who's telling me that they're experiencing similar things to me and they don't think it could be in their vitamins, then I would say, again, like I said before, what harm is it to test it? So you go to your doctor, you take a little blood work, you find out what's going on. You diagnose other things. You diagnose your vehicles. You diagnose what's wrong with your air conditioning unit. You don't ignore, or things get worse. And so this is a way to figure out if it's at the very least to rule it out. That's how I feel. One of the things I'd really like to share with people is to advocate. Do advocate for yourself. I never gave up advocating for myself when I had the brain tumor and the spine tumor and they kept looking in the wrong places. I never stopped advocating for myself when all this stuff started happening. But at first I did blame all of it on the brain tumor and the spine tumor removal. Come to find out that the only place I should have been feeling neuropathy is where they'd removed them, and not down there, So research, talk to people. If your doctor doesn't take you seriously, find another doctor. And just because it's recommended by somebody, just like my nutritionist, she meant well. She really did mean well. But I think that if she had looked at the bottle, like really, really looked at the bottle and seen that it said 5,288% of the daily value, I mean, who needs that? And why is that in there? Okay.
So advocate for yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Advocate for yourself. If you can't get one doctor to listen to you, go to the next doctor. Because a person has a degree and is a medical doctor or a nutritionist or neurologist, does not mean that they know your body, and they're not in your skin. And so when you say something is wrong and they're not looking, or they're not helping you look, or they're dismissing you, then you need to find another doctor. And I've been really very lucky with my PCP, but I've had some experiences with other specialists, with specialists even recommended by her, that just don't listen. And I got super lucky with my physical therapist as well. So I have a good group of people that are looking out for me. And the really nice thing too about my doctor is that now she's checking like her other patients. Like she's not dismissing other people that have this chronic neuropathy and this pain and stuff. She's looking. So she learned and was willing to learn. And
it's all about education, because you don't know what you don't know, and we're learning all the time.
Well, and another thing that I did want to say is that we're on Facebook groups together. You and I are. That's how we met. I'm on a couple of them. I was on one because I broke my patella, my knee shattered. And I'm on that group, and then I was on a neuropathy group before I got onto the B6 toxicity group. And it's really easy to read other people's posts and other people's symptoms and other people's experiences and kind of start to apply them to ourselves. And the mind is a super, super strong thing. I mean, it's amazing. It helped me move my toe for the first time. It helped me walk again. I relearned all these things, found a different part of my brain to work when they removed, the tumor and everything. And, but we need to not let the negatives make us find the negatives in ourselves. So I experience neuropathy differently than you do, and in part because I have had back surgery and I have had knee surgery and I did lose the use of my foot, and so my neuropathy really flares up in my knees and in my low back and where I had previous surgeries or injuries, and that's different than somebody else. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to be you, and don't put on yourself something that's happening to somebody else just because they're part of this group. I haven't lost any hair, but there are people in the B6 group that say that they've lost hair. There are people in the B6 group that say they haven't worked in 22 months. There's people in the B6 group like me that that have had multiple surgeries, or that there's in the group that has diabetes. And I think we're all different enough to where, yes, finding out that we have people that are suffering through these things with us and helping and talking, that's one thing, and it's invaluable. But don't take on the negative unnecessarily, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We all have our different journey, and
Yeah.
what I found though from chatting to other people, there's always something else with the B6 usually underlying.
Yes.
There's other stuff going on. But I think what I've got from chatting to people is we need to check our B6, and it's not in standard blood work.
It's not. They wanted to charge me $420 to check my B6, and I'd already been diagnosed with B6 toxicity, and they didn't want to cover it because it's not a standard covered blood work test. And finally, through my doctor and through Medicare and basically fighting, then they are covering it now. So, and that's the only way you find out. You can't look at yourself, okay, well, maybe this is B6. You have to find out.
And you need to get it tested.
Yes.
Soon, soon while you're taking supplements even.
Yes.
You can't wait 6 weeks, because then your levels will drop back to normal.
Yes.
But the nerve damage remains, and it takes a long time to heal from.
And you can't, the blood test only tests the blood, and B6 is water soluble. So if you don't find out, if you stop taking, like everybody that's watching this podcast, oh, I better not take this supplement. I've got all these things going on. Like you said, in 6 weeks, it was out of my system, out of my blood. But it's not out of my system because there's proof of it. I mean, in every painful step, or every vibration, or every zap or zing or burn.
So a lot of people will go with the diagnosis of idiopathic neuropathy. If they've stopped taking their B6 supplement, they'll just have this neuropathy left over.
Yeah.
So if you are taking B6 supplements, get your B6 levels checked straight away.
Exactly.
And then reevaluate whether you need them or not.
Well, and look at the water you drink. If you buy bottled water that's a vitamin water, or that's some kind of energy drink water, or your cereals. My boyfriend loves Fruit Loops. And I looked at Fruit Loops, and it has B6 in it. It's fortified. I wasn't drinking them, but Liquid IV, which has electrolytes and all that stuff in it. Well, Liquid IV has B6 in it. So it's not just in a B complex or just in a vitamin. You can eat it naturally, get it in your food, right? But energy drinks, waters, fortified cereals, fortified breads, fortified pastas, look for it, and it's got a couple of different names. It's not just called B6.
Pyridoxine, P5P.
Yes.
It's also in protein waters, and magnesium. Not all magnesium has it, but some magnesium does. And melatonin sometimes has B6,
Yes.
P5P added. So you've got to check everything.
Well, and I haven't checked back on Plexus products, but I did. I was taking Plexus products for a while, and I need to check back on those because a lot of these, like Plexus and these energy and weight loss and so on and so forth, there's B6 added in those, and so you think, oh, I'm doing great because I'm taking these electrolytes and I'm taking these vitamins and I'm it's making me less hungry and so on, but there it is, it's in there.
Yeah.
There was a girl that said, I've got all this going on and they say I'm B6 toxic, but I have nothing that I've done that has B6. And then she starts looking and she's, oh, wait a second, it is in fortified food. It is, and so you do find it if you look deep enough.
Some people are only taking 2 milligrams and they become toxic from that.
Yeah. And some people just a few weeks, by my calculations, 10 years of monster drinks, right? And then another 5 years of B6, B complex. I feel pretty lucky. And people laugh at me when I say that because I feel lucky they found my brain tumor. I feel lucky that, I feel lucky I can walk again. I think I have a handle on it. And then there's people that it just, 2-3 weeks have taken it and they've got worse symptoms than I have. So I feel lucky in that way. Is it fun? It's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And I'm one of those people that always thought that when I hit my 60s, I'd be one of those, mountain climbing, hiking off the... I'm lucky. I feel like I've caught it and I'm going to get better. And I believe in the 2 H's, hope and hydration. And that's what's going to get me through this. Hope and hydration.
Well, let's see you in a year and see the progress you've made there.
I absolutely would. And I'm going to get to Australia, so maybe we can meet.
Absolutely. I should actually have a room for everyone. They come and stay.
There you go. Yeah, we could have like a B6 party, an anti-B6 party, a recovery party. But yeah, so I appreciate, Melissa, the opportunity to talk. I am so glad you and I met actually a little before this because you had written the book, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I'd started reading that, and I admired the fact that you were able to put it down and basically put yourself out there, and I hope to be as positive as you are.
Well, see, my book wasn't perfect, but I wanted to provide the information I was looking for. And for me, as a creative, I find how I process stuff is by writing it.
Me too.
And I thought, why not create this resource? Because there was nothing there.
There's nothing. There's still nothing. There is some, but not much.
Yeah, so there was nothing there. So I created a resource that people that know that have it don't need to read it. It's for people that are looking for answers. And that's what the book is.
Yeah.
It helps you work out, oh yeah, I've been taking too much B6 and this is what I need to ask the doctor. So it's there for people. The second book will be different. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to that one too.
Yeah.
I can't, like you said, just advocate. People need to advocate. People need to believe. People need to look deeper and read labels. All of my adult life, people have been saying, read labels. I got to read labels. You look for sugar, too much sodium. You look for the amount of protein so you can get enough protein. You look at those things, but you think vitamins are okay. Vitamins are cool. Vitamins are good. And it's not. Yeah. Not all of them.
Well, thank you for joining me today and sharing your story.
Yes, I'll be around.
And for anyone that is looking for support, there are some great support groups on Facebook.
There absolutely are. I don't think I would even have hope or hydration if it weren't for those groups. They saved us. They saved me anyway. I appreciate everybody on there.
As this episode ends, here are a few important reminders. Vitamin B6 is essential, but both vitamin B6 deficiency and vitamin B6 toxicity can share similar symptoms. Blood testing, supplement history, and clinical assessment can help tell the difference. B6 toxicity affects the nervous system, so symptoms can vary widely from person to person. These may include tingling, numbness, balance problems, muscle weakness, electric shock sensations, twitching, blurred vision, bladder urgency, racing heart, gut issues, skin changes, sleep disturbance and mood changes. This is not an exhaustive list. In Australia, the TGA requires products containing 10 mg and above of vitamin B6 to carry a warning about peripheral neuropathy. The TGA has also advised healthcare professionals to review vitamin B6 intake, including supplements and fortified products, when investigating unexplained peripheral neuropathy symptoms. Health Direct Australia also recognises that peripheral neuropathy can be caused by excess vitamin B6. This podcast shares personal experiences and consumer awareness information only. It is not medical advice. If you are concerned about symptoms, supplements, medications, or your health, please speak with your doctor or qualified healthcare professional.
If these conversations or my story have resonated with you, my book, B6 Toxicity and Me, is available worldwide on Amazon. Thank you for joining us today.
Looking for support with vitamin B6 toxicity? You're not alone. There are Facebook support groups where people share their experiences, symptoms, recovery journeys, and what they've learned along the way. Scan the QR code to visit b6toxicitysupport.com, where you can find links and more information.